Welcome back, guys, to another Reincarnation Coliseum video. This is chapter 33, and things begin just before the climax of the last tag team battle. With the crowd enjoying the entertainment, Zulu and G-Dust appear deep in thought while remaining focused. If Vivian pulls off the win, I can finally get what I deserve, he says. Looking over at Desmos, he begins to recall the early days of when he became the most unfortunate person in the world. Born to a whore for a mother, after she gave birth, she abandoned him to be cared for at an orphanage. While there, he was bullied relentlessly for his looks, thus being called a Jujin. The word is used to identify someone of mixed breed, which was fitting since he was part rat beast and human. Not only that, but his body being deformed also caused other problems. The orphanage was hell on earth, and suffering seemed to follow him wherever he went. Laughing at the situation, others found it very raspy due to his deformity, which earned him the nickname G. During his studies, he realized in order to get what he wants, having a lot of money is what he'll need. This led to him trying anything he could think of that would earn him what he needs. Through various jobs, he connected with all kinds of people before realizing his true skill was scouting the best talents. He began making more moves based on that and increased his profits, but it wasn't long until his work would bring danger to his doorstep. One night, he witnessed 3 individuals breaking into his home from afar and stated that in this business, it doesn't matter if people die or live miserably. Someday, I'll be deceived and die anyway, but it's too soon for that. More time goes on, and before he knew it, he was being called the Grand Merchant. Now with followers of his own, he sought an audience with the Coliseum's head manager. As the secretary opens the door, Desmos appears on her throne to greet him. G-Dust was left in awe of her beauty and unconsciously complimented her. Desmos was surprised by his words before gaining back her composure, as one would expect of the so-called Grand Merchant, she says. Desmos looks him over as he tries to explain why he called her beautiful. G-Dust mentions that he's just a businessman after all, and sometimes he says what he truly feels. Desmos calls him persistent, but it's not so bad since she doesn't mind. Despite trying to make amends for his comment, G-Dust was still in awe of Desmos' presence. Her talent surpassed anything he's ever seen. She's a perfect person, which is the complete opposite of me, he says. This is the perfection that he's been seeking. As panels shift back to the Coliseum, he looks over at Desmos again and thinks to himself that she's the reason he's lived this long. Time is now as he screams for Vivian to shoot and get the win. Alice is then shown in the advantage position above Vivian like in chapter 32, which means the match is about to be decided. Meanwhile, a sobbing Mara is trying to hold Zulu after witnessing Mikigami's death, before things rewind a few days prior. In the training area, Zulu asks how things are going for Mikigami and Alice. He mentions it's going well and that Alice is taking the training very serious. Zulu is surprised by this and watches as Alice takes her stance. She thought it would be impossible to persuade Alice considering she's a spoiled brat, but praises Mikigami on somehow achieving that feat. She also comments that Mikigami should use the horse skills since that's what he'll be acting as on the bottom. He responds that it's interesting that Zulu thinks quite the same as him. With Alice's preparations complete, she uses spatial exchange on herself, which impresses Zulu as Mikigami tells her why he's training her this way. If you have an opening that could win the match, then take it and attack at will, he says. This leaves Zulu questioning what he means. He goes on to say that if their enemy exceeds his expectations, then he will leave the rest to Alice. Zulu crashes out on the reasoning for leaving it up to her. Mikigami understands her concerns, but assures her that Alice isn't the selfish, short-tempered, and useless noble Zulu thinks she is. In fact, she's not a noble at all. Before she became Alice Cotton in the Coliseum, she was nothing more than a commoner with no last name. This changes Zulu's original view on her since she always remembered Alice being arrogant with her status. Mikigami goes on to say that Alice thinks she should be a strong person, but there's a reason behind it. She sees herself as someone that is better than others despite having no noble background. Mikigami also thinks of himself in the same way. As the focus shifts to Alice, Mikigami asks Zulu if she's able to train herself continuously for 10 hours, or even survive it knowing that it's fatal if a mistake is made. Baffled by his questions, Mikigami tells her that Alice has been working hard for that long with occasional breaks in between. Even for professional users such as her, this is hard to master, but Mikigami believes in her. Alice told him once that ever since the age of 10, every day for a year, she's practiced using spatial exchange for 10 hours. This is because she really doesn't think she's strong, but she should be even though she's not. Seeing how hard she's working, Zulu is amazed by her effort, but doesn't dismiss the idea that leaving the outcome of the match to someone else is right. It takes more than guts and spirit to win a match, she says. Mikigami questions if that's true before asking Zulu what she thinks is the most important thing in the game. She answers vaguely by stating there are various things. Everyone has something they think is important, and that includes their enemies, G-Dust, Paula, and Vivian. To Mikigami, what will be important is keeping all eyes on the player. Zulu is puzzled as he goes on to tell a story he once told Alice. In his world, there's something called a video game that allows him to control and fight with characters that have the same abilities. It may seem strange, but the match is decided by the person that's good at the game. He asks her if strong players can defeat weak players without ever getting hit. Zulu responds that she doesn't find it strange since strong fighters can deal with the situation accordingly, as Mikigami agreeably shouts that it comes down to their timing when countering, attacking, and evading. For example, the person who can see through their opponent will win. In order to determine that, you have to tough it out while also never taking your eyes off the enemy. Humans in a general sense are completely matched regardless if their ability is powerful. Think of it this way, he says. When you are in a long battle, you may start to become complacent and exhausted. By doing so, you give up and take an easier option because you feel things are going to go your way. The victor will never miss a step and keep their eyes focused only on the enemy. When Alice was made aware of this, she decided to never look away again. With Zulu slightly agreeing with his argument, he does say that this obsession of hers is not normal. He jokingly says that he's about to fight with one of the 4 Heavenly Kings again, but he would never have a rematch with Alice. Reason being is that he's terrified at how scary she can be. Zulu thinks about what he said in this moment and is left shocked. With panels shifting back to the Coliseum, he goes on to say that Alice is a person with something flawless that's second to none. It's not her weak body or mind that's pushing her. No, it's something more. And despite considering myself to be the strongest, he says, she, on the other hand, has a flawless spirit. Alice is shown countering in 1 second as both Zulu and G-Dust look on. As he calls her beautiful, a threatening aura begins to leak out and G-Dust turns toward Desmos. With the look of irritation and disappointment on her face, she tells him that not being able to lie is one of his greatest merits. Fumbling his words, she cuts him off, stating that for someone that is supposedly in love with me, here you are praising another woman. As the announcer declares Team Mikigami the winners, Desmos rises from her seat and walks toward the door. As her secretary holds it open for her, she has one last thing to say to the Grand Merchant. Even if it was fate, I was never going to let a guy like you win, she says. Hearing such a thing caused G-Dust to drop to his knees and sob behind the now closed doors. Making her way through the corridor, Desmos' secretary reminds her of the bet she made with G-Dust. Secretary stated she would have to confirm the range of his assets, to which Desmos gives a short, disappointing reply. At that moment, her secretary thinks to herself that this is the first time she's seen Desmos act this way. Smirking at the situation, she continues that G-Dust might still have a chance after all. In the recovery room, Mikigami and Vivian are seen being brought back to life. Greeted by the receptionist, Mikigami says that it sucked since it makes him feel terrible afterward, while Vivian savors the feeling. With that, the receptionist pulls out 2 slave uniforms. Not knowing who won in the end, Mikigami stares at the slave attire intensely until Vivian angrily snatches it away. As Mikigami realizes that Alice must have won after his death, Vivian throws her top at him and calls Alice a tramp. Looking at Vivian change is interesting to him because she does it so naturally in front of others instead of feeling embarrassed about it. With that, the door opens and Paula asks if everyone's been resurrected now. Vivian tells her to keep quiet as she informs Paula what happened during the match. Turning toward Mikigami, Paula grabs his face to be sure he's revived before watching him turn his gaze away from her chest. "Aw, he looked away," she says, before Vivian tells her to stop teasing him. After informing the 2 about his existing slaves, Vivian is shocked at how submissive they are, while Paula is impressed by the number. As he looks at Paula, he mentions that he's never bought a woman like her before. Being a dancer is something new, but she clears it up that tavern dancers also work as prostitutes. A wave of fear washes over him as he realizes that she's got experience. Vivian begins educating Paula on the aphrodisiac effects and her experience in the Coliseum. Mikigami can only watch from afar as this next session is about to be different from those prior. Normally, his opponents have no experience, which made it easier for a trial and error session, but these 2 are lewd professionals. Based on their gestures of Abijah and Paiziri, they turn their attention to Mikigami now. As their master, I can't let them take the lead, but having 2 slaves at the same time is a first for me, he says. With shaky confidence, the chapter ends with him thinking that he doesn't have a chance at all against them. That wraps up chapter 33, and it filled in some blanks about G-Dust, Paula, Desmos, and Alice. For G, he's had it hard since birth with a mother that loves sex more than her own son, so she abandoned the guy. He's had jealousy rising during his early days when he was starting to make a name for himself, and his love for Desmos runs deep. Unfortunately, he failed this time, but the secretary feels like, he can try again at some point. Tying this situation to Paula, G-Dust ultimately believed in her potential just like Mikigami believed in Alice's. She just needed a better environment to really showcase it. The problem is that when she got older, she chose the life of a prostitute, which I'm sure reminded him of his mother. that probably explains why he didn't want to sleep with her. Desmos was truly his first love from what we all see here. We all saw the panels of him wanting the booty meat. She even agreed to a deal knowing that they have somewhat of a past, but him showing interest in anyone other than her was pretty much the red flag. And you know, you got one red flag, it's like, okay, I may let it slide, but that showing interest to Desmos and someone else was like 3 red flags off the bat. So it was a done deal. She still likes him though, like because of his honesty, but it's saddening that she thought he would only look at her. Lastly, let's take a look at Alice, right? Her backstory needs more details than what we got. I felt like Saizou sensei just put something out there for the sake of it. Mary, Marl, Fine, Suzu, Paula, and Vivian all had like more detailed backstories than what we got. So there has to be more to like Alice's backstory coming in like the next chapter or bonus stuff or something. I feel like it's not over yet for Alice. Like we gotta have more. That whole no last name thing was just, I feel like it was just put there just to be put there. There's way more than just that. I do not believe it. Anyway, what I expect next chapter is Vivian and Paula taking the lead on things before Mikigami pulls an Uno reverse. This is going to test his strength and stamina that a lot of people want to see anyway. And we haven't seen this since like he enslaved the 4 Heavenly Kings. Remember that before Suzu showed up with the cloning ability, he had to put in actual work, like real work for all of them, especially Marl, who has like crazy stamina. I think out of all the slaves that he has, like Marl drains him the most because she like just wants to keep going. And with her buffs, it's like, fuck, like, can you just like clock out at some point? You want to keep doing it? Like she'll be the last one to keep it going. And while everyone else is like done for, but you know, it is what it is. I don't think they're going to do it in the recovery room, which is all we've seen with this chapter. But if so, then there's no way he'll be able to copy Suzu to make clones. So that's going to play a part into, you know, whether he makes clones or not, because we've seen him like make the clones and do what he need to do, but no clones, no problem. However, though, if they change rooms, it's possible that he'll like see his slaves and then, you know, make sure Alice gets rewarded because, you know, she'll go first with the clones or whatever. And if that's the case, you know, he's going to get clones and take it back to him with Paula and Vivian. It's possible. It is possible. But at the same time, it's like, okay, maybe we can change things up and we'll just have it as like a group orgy. I'm sure people don't want the group thing. People want individual stuff. And I think Vivian and Paula is going to be like really good. Paula may be on the vanilla side, maybe. I think Vivian is more of like the freak that we actually want in a really good way. Also, I know I mentioned Zaid and Fine's new outfit officially being shown this chapter, but looks like they're saving it for, you know, next time or whenever they feel like revealing it. I'll find out. I'll try to get back on Zunta's fan box and see what we got going on there. I'm pretty sure it's about to get released next time, but he may have made something even better on there, but I haven't seen it yet. So it is what it is. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, comment, like, and subscribe for more. Follow on socials, and I'll see you next time. Holla at your boy.